Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We are so glad to be together and that you are filling this sanctuary for all the different reasons that brought you here on this Shabbat. Maybe you've never been to a service or you've been to literally 1,000 of them. We're just glad that you're here. Throughout this service, you're going to hear some of the most beautiful tunes brought to us by our cantor and all of our musicians, and some of the tunes that we've known since forever, and some of them are very old, some of them are contemporary, and it's something I think that's part of our spiritual health and well-being, to have music in our lives and to come together around music. It happens that this Shabbat has its own special name. It's called Shabbat Shirah, the Shabbat of music, of singing. And so I encourage you throughout the service, there'll be moments where we really listen and moments where we can lift up our spirits just by immersing ourselves in the beautiful music of our tradition. We not only have ancient music, and music's been around for a little while, and new music. We also have congregants who've been around for a very, very, very long time, and then a while, and perhaps new, and maybe it's your first night, but this is a special legacy Shabbat, and I'd love to have you, just for a moment, either rise or just wave your hand if you've been a member of this synagogue for 20 years or more. Anybody here, and everyone look around, and I don't know if the camera can see this. I know some of you at home who've been members forever are waving your hands, and we're waving at you. We have just the health of this congregation. Thanks to you, these members that have kept the lights burning and have kept the music playing, we welcome you all on this Shabbat.
And maybe you had your bat mitzvah here, had confirmation here 20, 30, 40 years ago, some of you. And we get to welcome in those who are going to have their bat and bar mitzvah tomorrow morning and celebrate. And so we're so excited to invite Isabel Enzel's family and Isabel and Leo Ellis and his family to come up and begin this special weekend by lighting Shabbat candles. So come join together. Leo, bring your parents. Isabel, bring yours. And come to the table and say, I'm going to receive Kibel this Shabbat. We're on page 2, everybody, as we get ready to do the blessing together.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu.
Amen. Can everyone say Mazel Tov? Mazel Tov. Shabbat Shalom. Take a moment to greet someone next to you and tell them good Shabbos, and you're glad they're here with you. Shabbat Shalom. So on page 20, we get ready for Lachado D on page 20. And we're in the Kabbalat Shabbat service. We're receiving Shabbat. And the Kabbalat Shabbat service, which I'll talk about in my message, is developed in Sfat. And Shlomo Alkabetz, who lived in Sfat, wrote this Lachado D. And if you look on page 20, by each number, 1, 2, 3, 4, you see the first letter of his name that he put into the song for Lachado D, welcome in the Shabbat bride.
Lechado di likratala
We're on page 22. Beautiful Psalm 92. And I'd love to invite everybody to join in with me in the indented paragraph at the very bottom of page 22, outside the brackets. We read together, "The righteous bloom like a date palm. They thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courts of our God. In old age, they still produce fruit. They are full of sap and freshness, attesting that Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no wrong."
I love that line. In old age, they still produce fruit. They're full of sap and freshness. It was just Tu B'Shvat yesterday, the new year of what? Of the trees. And again, I'm going to link that with the Kabbalists, the mystics of Spot, who made a special holiday, a Seder for Tu B'Shvat. And they also wrote these opening prayers, this Kabbalat Shabbat. And it's out of that mystical experience that was connected so much to nature and seeing the trees come back to life, which is starting to happen right now, it's this time of year. They also wrote Shalom Alechem on page 24. And this idea of welcoming the angels, welcoming renewal each Shabbat.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashalem, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malchei hamelakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamelakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachuni leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamelakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamelakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
For those who are able to stand, we stand together and we turn to page 28 as we call ourselves to worship.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam Evael.
We get ready to say Shema. The Talmud teaches to have kivun, kavanah, like a tree planted with its roots deep. So take a moment to take a deep breath. Plant yourself for a moment and connect with that one that's in you and around you.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם נאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי ויתן קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Emet. And on page 37, let's say those words in our language with our heart. Please join me. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gates. They are reminders to do all my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. And as we turn to Micha Mocha on page 40, these are the words of this Shabbat's Torah portion, Shabbat Shirah B'Shalach. And these are the words that the Israelites sang, the gratitude that they expressed to God upon becoming free. And so we sing these songs and we commit ourselves to work for the freedom of everyone who is not yet free.
Page 43.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
We take a moment to think of those who lie in beds of illness who could use a bracha, a blessing of recovery, of hope, of support, knowing that we're thinking of them, that you're thinking of them. I mentioned today Rusty Holden, Patrick Powell, John Larson, Peter Logan, Yehuda Ben Asher, Elizabeth McMahon, Dimitri Ehrlich, Nancy Jackson, Daphna Bat Naftali Asher, Ann Geary Sanders, Rachel White, Michael Pappas, Daryl Jan, Judy Lowenthal, Jim Sanson, Jennifer Kern, Charlie Kopp. These are names that we've been told of to pray for. As I point my talit towards you, if you want to call it someone's name to add as well, please do. Yishbech Avotenu Abraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Imutenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yivarech v'Yirpei Holim v'Yiten Lehem Refet Nefesh Refet Guf Refet Kol v'Nomar Amen. Amen.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Just your voices. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm.
We come to the Amidah, page 46. We'll do the first few prayers together and then pray for a while on our own silently. Please rise and pray as if everything depended on God. Act as if everything depended on you.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agitehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim V'Konei HaKol V'Zocher Chazdei Avot v'Imaot U'Mevei Geula Livnei B'neihem Leman Shemo Be'ava Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Be'ezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia Mashiv HaRuach U'Morid HaGashem Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed Mechayeh HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim Somech Noflim V'Rodfei Cholim U'Matir Asurim U'Mekayem Emunato L'Shenei Achar Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot U'Mido Melach Melech Memit U'Mechayeh U'Matmiach Yeshua V'Ne'eman Ata L'Chayot HaKol Baruch atah Adonai mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh v'kadoshim b'chol yom v'hallelu selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. This institution, Congregation Emanu-El, has a proud history of supporting Jewish music, composers of Jewish music. And tonight will feature two pieces by Jewish composers, one new and one old, but both being supported by Congregation Emanu-El. Next week, February 6th, whatever that is, Tuesday night, we will have our annual Kolenu concert, which Cantor Atzi and I just love doing. We get 8 voices together. We have this band. It's just incredible. And Cantor Jonathan Commissar always comes from New York and is our musical director and our composer, our sort of in-house composer / arranger. What he does is just magical. And this year, he's composing a new piece for our concert. So our history of commissioning new Jewish music continues. He'll be composing the opening of our concert, which it comes from the book of Ecclesiastes. There's nothing new under the sun. So I hope you'll come and listen to it. He's not even done with it yet, but everything I hear is just spectacular. I can't wait for the 8 of us and the whole ensemble to sing it. And tonight we'll be listening to Cantor Commissar's Modim Anachnu Lach. We acknowledge with thanks. So he's one of our modern composers that Emanu-El supports. But we'll also, when we get to the moment of the Aleinu, we'll be honoring a composer that we supported almost 100 years ago, the composer Ernest Bloch, who was considered to be one of the great composers in the world in his time, was also the head of the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. And this congregation commissioned him to compose a sacred service, which is considered to be the greatest piece of classical Jewish music of the 20th century. He composed it for a full orchestra and a 100-voice choir, and it premiered right here on this bima, actually as a service. So when we do the Aleinu, and you hear just a small rendering of what Bloch was intending, I want you to try to imagine that majesty. And we're actually approaching the 100th anniversary of the composition of that concert. I had the privilege of getting to sing it last spring in Denver and getting to experience what Bloch was trying to do with that full choir and orchestra. Hopefully one day we'll get to do it here. But first, we acknowledge with thanks. Modim anachnu lach, שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, לאלוהי אבותינו, ואימותינו לעולם ועד. מודים אנחנו לך, צור חיינו, מגן אישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. מודים אנחנו לך, לעולם ועד. For the sun that rises in the east, for the seas that roar a prayer, for the stillness of a snowfall, for a breath of autumn air, for the grasp within my fingers, for a mind that makes me whole, for the voice that God has given me to speak the truth within my soul. Modim, אנחנו לך, modim, אנחנו לך, modim, אנחנו לך, לעולם ועד. ועל ניסך שבכל יום עמנו, שבכל יום עמנו. ועל נפלאותיך וטובותיך, ערב ובוקר וצהריים. For the laughter of the children, for the way they greet the day, with their endless stream of questions, they remind us how to play. And for the ones we call beloved, who take away our fear, they tell us without saying it, remember I am here, remember I am here. Modim אנחנו לך, modim אנחנו לך, modim אנחנו לך, לעולם ועד. צור חיינו, מגן אישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. מודים אנחנו לך, לעולם ועד. מודים, מודים.
Shikoach cantor. Wow. It is a time of modim, of hoda'ah, of gratitude. Shabbat shirah, Tu B'Shvat. I'm sure your families have your go-to movies when you just want to relax in the middle of the darkness of a winter's night and enjoy something together. Can you think of yours? My own personal favorite is Colin Firth and Jennifer Eale's version of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. But our family also likes to watch the film production of the musical 1776. Have you seen that? It may not be altogether historically accurate, but it does try to celebrate the vision of democracy of our founders, while also not ignoring the original sins of accepting slavery and misogyny on their same part. I'm always in awe when I think about it of that moment in history where some of the world's most amazing minds gathered together in the same room in Philadelphia. John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, among others, working together to change the world. Well, yesterday was Tu B'Shvat, a holiday that has its origins in the Torah and in the Talmud. It was commanded by the Jews living in ancient Israel that they should bring their tithes from their orchards at this time of year up to Jerusalem. Yes, many of us may not realize that a holiday that we grew up as a tree planting day, a time to appreciate nature and to help green the world, a kind of Jewish Arbor Day in the middle of winter, has its roots, so to speak, actually in an ancient tax system. It's at this time in Israel, then and now, that the sap of renewal starts to run in the trees. It's a harbinger of the not too distant springtime. And I don't know about you, are you getting ready to pay your taxes? There's a lot of commonality here. But we were taught that, interestingly enough, in the Talmud, that it became a custom that if you had a child born at that time of year, that you would plant a sapling, a cypress for girls, a cedar for boys, that the branches then would be used to make their chuppah, their wedding canopy, when and if they chose to get married. It's a really beautiful custom. I have many memories of planting trees on Tu B'Shvat in the back lot of the synagogue where I grew up, Temple Beth Israel of Pomona. And it was miraculous because every year we would plant a tree in the very same place where we'd planted it last year. Now, the holiday did seem to be child-focused, a celebration with teachers bringing out plates of fruit and seeds representing the 7 species that grow in Israel. But it was in the late 80s that I became aware, as did many, that the mystics of Shabbat revalued this holiday and made it not a kid's holiday and not just a Jewish Arbor Day, but they connected it to their own vision of the mystical tree of life they believed tied all existence together. And they commemorated it by celebrating a mystical Seder. Isaac Luria and his followers, the creator of Lurianic Kabbalah, focused on the creation of the universe as being that reflection and that it all flowed forth, kind of like a Big Bang, actually, from this tree of life. He and other Kabbalists drew a mystical map of the universe, and they tried to understand the unfolding of the divine presence, like energy and fruit and seeds flowing through this system as wisdom and bringing its nurturing presence to us, opening ourselves to that mystical comprehension of reality if we behaved and understood accordingly. Luria taught that God needed us to help complete the work of creation through acts of tikkun, through acts of repair, because they understood that the creation is not God and therefore is not perfect, and parts of it broke. And some of the light of goodness held inside the vessels of this mystical tree of life went missing when the vessels shattered. We repair God's creation, he said, by performing mitzvot, by helping others, and by fully experiencing the joys and beauties of the divine gift of existence. He called it tikkun olam. So it's not just doing the mitzvot, but Luria said, when you eat a fruit, or any food for that matter, and truly bless it and taste it, you release some of the missing sparks embedded in it. when you fully experience your life, you release some of the joy and bring about a repair, a return to its source. For Luria, God needs who? Point at yourself. God needs you to live fully. So they created this Seder to remind you. And they gave a mystical meaning to each of the activities. And of course, they drank how many cups of wine? 4 cups. Because they riffed off of the Passover Seder. And they'd start out with white, and then pour a little red in, and get a little pink to start helping the world come back to life. Pour a little more red, and finally how they'd finish? All Cabernet from Napa, everybody. But how they valued even the fruit they ate, it had a mystical meaning. For example, the olive is eaten at the Seder as a fruit soft on the outside and hard on the inside, reminding us of the spiritual and emotional strength inside each of you, even though at times you might feel soft and vulnerable and weak. Isn't this cool? It's really interesting. They didn't only create the Tu B'Shvat Seder, these guys. The moment that Isaac Luria was in Svat, in that period in the 16th century, it was like a 1776 moment. Some of the greatest Jewish minds ever gathered together at the same time or overlapped by just a few years there in that little northern Israel city. And they changed Judaism. At the same time that Luria was there, Moses Cordovero, another mystic, was teaching and laying some of the foundations of the Zohar and of mysticism. Shlomo Alkabetz, who I mentioned earlier in the service, who wrote Lachadodi, is there with Luria and teaching that we have to go out and greet Kibel Shabbat. And they go outside, and that's why we turn around in the Lachadodi part of the service. Joseph Caro, he was there too. He wrote the Shulchan Aruch, the basic code of Jewish law, but he was a mystic as well. And these were not people who were upright and serious. They wanted you to do what with life? Taste it. Go into nature. Drink a little bit of what? A little bit of wine if it doesn't bother you. I like to think that their time in Svat was like San Francisco during the Beat generation, with creative alternative people attracted to live there because it was the happening place. And they had a huge influence on the Jewish future, working near and with each other. As I said, they focused on God's presence in beauty, in nature, in sensuality, and in learning. It's a double mitzvah to what on Shabbat? To make love on Shabbat. People know that idea? Well, that comes from these guys, these hippies of their time. So this month of Tu B'Shvat, this month of Shvat, and with Tu B'Shvat, I want you to think about the legacy of these forebears. In Israel, even as the war continues, the trees are changing. Let them remind us that our roots there go deep in that land. Our connection to that place, it's part of our ongoing renewal. Despite the war and the pain and suffering in Israel and Gaza, and the attempts to delegitimize Israel, like the ad from JVP that was in today's paper, we were there, and we were planted there. Part of the problem with the debate about Israel and Zionism today stems from our own ignorance about our own history. Jews have been in Svat since late antiquity. We've lived there continuously and returned there and flourished there despite pressures from outside forces. Yes, we are indigenous to that area, and we're not interlopers. And yes, the Arabs, the Palestinians, they are indigenous too, for that matter. And the sooner that we both acknowledge that each group has roots in the region, and the sooner we accept each other, the sooner we will have real peace that we all long for and have to keep working for and not give up and see the holy in each other. Let this Tu B'Shvat remind us that Judaism has always renewed itself. Creative people in each age have drawn from various traditions, music, thought, philosophy, and they've enhanced Jewish experience. Jewish roots run deep, and there is more to this Jewish practice that can inform your life than planting a tree in the same place every year in Pomona, California. So this month of Shabbat, maybe when you go home tonight or out tomorrow, truly taste the food that you're eating. Take a breath and say a motzi, even if you're sitting in some nice restaurant, and acknowledge the blessing. Savor the wine. Tomorrow morning, sniff the aroma of the coffee. See the beauty around you. Write a love note to someone special. And let yourself truly experience being, enhanced by the awareness that you are surrounded, despite yours and the world's problems, by God's amazing blessing and this tree of mystical wonder that flows through and should be celebrated if you'll but acknowledge it. Shabbat Shalom.
Continue with Aleinu. Please rise.
Page 282.
Please be seated. We turn in our prayer books to page 294, and we think of ourselves as plants that were planted. We were planted by someone, And we always take this moment in our service to think about the people who came before us, who we loved, who died very recently or at this time in years past. And we just thank God for them and for their memories. And so on this Shabbat, we're thinking of Thomas Kreisman, who will be laid to rest this week. We're in a period of 30 days of mourning for Anne Gonski, Mary Jane Eisenberg, Joan Gindling Bram, Claire Warhaftig, Harriet Cohn Eisenberg, Eleanor Kaufman, Rochelle Annixter, Jacob Ben Mattis, and Rita Robert. And we mark the yahrzeits of these beloved in our community: Edith Eric, Harold Daniel Barton, Rosie Berger, Walter Berkeley, Doris Blinks, Sidney Blum, Dora Boer, Miriam Busina, Catherine Branston, Rayfield Irving Bressler, Judith Brody, Rabbi Samuel Brody, Nan Petnick Butensky, Rachel Caro, Elizabeth Chesler, Armand Dan, Bernard Dehovitz, Richard Shine Dinner, George Edelson, Robert Charles Fink, Harry Fireside, Frank Feudum, Lucretia Glazer, Abe Goldberg, Abby Goldman, Samuel Donald Gordon, Rose Rebecca Snader Gordon, Doris Grasshoff, Jonathan Joseph Greenberg, Moses Misha Grossman, Dr. Walter Gruber, J. Allen Howard, Jeannie Jasper, Alexander Kaiser, Emma Capustina, Mary Killian, Dora Kitchell, Ruth E. Nee, Frank F. Crimmen, Alec Lambie, Solomon Lanster, Rita Levinson, Zdenka Levy, Marianne Magruder, Marjorie Mandel, Marcia Markels, May Melnick, Lillian Miller, Lewis Miller, Seymour Miller, Judith Milstein, Kathy Ozer, Leonard B. Paul, Audrey Pauly, Jennifer Perlman, J. Arthur Pritzker, Syed Abdul Majid Quadri, Bob Rappaport, Jack Rosen, Ethel B. Rosenthal, Regina Rosenzweig, Dr. Anne Molliver Rubin, Jerome David Salinger, Gabby Semet, Jacqueline Schneider, Saul Schur, Ida Cohen Schwartz, Moral Schwartz, Noah Skylam, Rosemary Sender, Melvin Steinberg, Emma Stoff, Anne Suris, Simas Verbalov, Linda Thaler, Benny Thier, Jeanette Werboff, James Whiteford, Barbara Zattel, and Richard Anthony Zuniga. And if you're home and you'd like to write in the name of the person you're thinking of or tell the person next to you, or if you're here and the name did not appear on this list, would you call out the name of anyone else that we're saying Kaddish for this Shabbat? We ask all of our mourners to rise first. If you're saying Kaddish for a particular person, please rise. And we all rise with you this Shabbat in solidarity as we say these words together on page 294. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mavarach la'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudashah b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlomo rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
V'imru, 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 amen. V'imru, 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 amen.
And now, for those of you who are the truest of legacy members, we are going to sing Ein Keloheinu on page 322, and I hope it brings the sweet memories for you that it does for me.
Ein Keloheinu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kemalkeinu, ein Kamoshienu, mi Keloheinu, mi Kadonenu, mi Kemalkeinu, mi Kamoshienu, non el Eloheinu, non el Adonenu, non el Malkeinu, non el Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu
It's my honor to give announcements, even though you have them right in front of you anyway. Cantor, is Koleno going to be amazing?
It's going to be amazing. It's February 6th. I'm going to level with. Raise your hand if you've ever been to Kolenu before. Okay, I see a lot of hands up. And I will tell you, we have a little bit of a conundrum. We have a construction project going on. I'm going to be totally honest. We normally get about 250 to 300 people to come to Kolenu. And in the Martin Meyer, that is amazing. And unfortunately, it is a construction zone, and we're in here, and there are 1,600 seats. I need 600 people to come to Kolenu. So if your hand was up, I know you thought it was amazing. I kind of need you to bring 5 people with you. Bring 5 people, and then we will be totally kosher for shows, okay?
So we have that. It's excellent. The first, we have survivors from Kibbutz Be'eri from October 7th here. We're doing that in conjunction with JNF, who also is bringing on October 16th, that Friday night, the first Ethiopian Jewish leader of the Jewish Agency. And that'll be really interesting to hear her speak Friday night. And I do want to add that at the end of the month, a lot going on in February, Ruchama Weiss, this great feminist poet, Talmudist. Think of that combination in Jewish life. Feminist poet, Talmudist, all together in one. She'll be our Scholar and Weekend residence, a speaker that weekend. It's going to be pretty amazing. Sign up for dinner. Come learn from her. She's fantastic. You can find her on YouTube and check her out.
All right. We are so honored that Leo and Isabel are going to lead us in Kiddush. They will be leading services tomorrow. And we're very proud of you both, and we say Mazal Tov to your families. The Kiddush is on page 5, and Isabel and Leo with full voice, why don't you lead us all?
Baruch Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei beri hagafen. Baruch Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzav chaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashabbat.
L'chaim, you can have a drink. Can you say Mazel Tov again, everybody? We're going to get ready to make motzi, and I do want to thank Cantor, our wonderful choir here. Just fantastic. And Dick Bright and Eric, and I forget the name of the bass player.
Well, Isaac, and also
Isaac, right?
the pianist tonight who's sitting at the organ right now, John. It's really special because, you know, I got invited to sing the title role of Elijah at Calvary Presbyterian Church last fall, and John is the organist at Calvary Presbyterian. I didn't know him. So now we've met, and he was able to jump in tonight, so it's just wonderful.
Do remember to bring your prayer books back to the prayer book cart, but before, put your arm around the person next to you, if you're welcome to do that. And we'll say together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
This is way wrong.